Hey folks, Sunny here. So today I'm going to be going through a 26 Tyranical Atal'Dazar that I've done this week. So this is a, as I say, Tyranical Volcanic Sanguine. Volcanic is a non-affix, realistically speaking, unless you're a caster or someone, and Sanguine is frustrating, but it's not problematic, shall we say. Certain dungeons, my experience this week has been Blackrock Hold and Everbloom. Sanguine is really annoying because just there's so many mobs, so large of poles, which have massive Sanguine issues, but still. This is about the Atal'Dazar. So, my build has not changed from the other commentary videos. I now have the haste as my highest stat, where I think previously versatility might have been. I'm enjoying basically being able to hit my buttons more often, which I'm getting from that. So yeah, gear-wise, nothing really has changed. I got an extra socket in the vault this week, so I've now got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gems with my lariat, which I think is everything. There might be one thing I'm missing, but I think that's pretty much everything. The wrists. The wrists is all I'm missing. So damage-wise, for the key, Avenger Shield, top. Judgment, Shield of the Righteous, Consecration, Blessed Hammer, etc. The Cleansing Flame is a little bit lower in this one, just because we have to move so much for Sanguine. So on a Sanguine week, generally your Consecration and your Forset bonus specifically is going to be lower. Consecration not quite so much, because you can just reapply it. But if Sanguine drops in your Empowered Consecration, you have to move out of it, and then you need a new Consecration, so you put the new one down and you lose the uptime with the Empowered. Unfortunately, it's just a downside of this week. Forset and Sanguine week doing, 5 to probably 7%, where normally it's sort of 8 to 10%, so you're looking at a 30 to 50% loss on Sanguine. And then for the helmet head enchant, still between 2 and 3% for a key, so it's nice to have. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This was run as a combination of me on Prop Paladin, a Zazul Pugs, Feral DPS, Survival Hunter, Outlaw Rogue, and Disc Priest. It was pretty clean. Everyone was trying pretty well. Very friendly group and everything else. Yeah, so we'll get into the key and I'll see you in a moment. Hey folks. So, just starting off the key then, we are going to go to Rizan first, as it's Tyrannical week, to blow our hero. I did talk with the group prior to the beginning of the recording about what we're going to do. Checked with the healer, and they were happy for me to pull in the swords. This is a really safe thing to do even on Sanguine, because the swords do not drop the Sanguine. So the focus of the group to begin with should be AoE basically, and then all is good.
Shelter.
When you're positioning this boss, you always want to be close to something that you can line of sight behind, so that when he does the fear, you can get away from it. Assuming you use the standard route, you'll use this sort of diagonal pillar that's on the left of the screen right now, and there is another one kind of to the right of where I am right now. This is why we bait across the room, because you go from one to one, and then you always have somewhere to hide. As a tank, you want to position it so the boss is somewhat centralized in the pillar, so that all the DPS have the opportunity, and the healer, to hide behind either side of this ramped pillar, just in case they get stuck.
Shelter.
As soon as the fear is over, you want to make sure you move to the side of the boss closest to the other pillar, just in case it starts to pursue you, which means you're in a position to be able to run away. We got really lucky in this case, because it was almost always going on the Survival Hunter by random chance, and he would just walk away, feign it, and then use his grapple to get back in. Regarding the tank buster in this, the bite, so it puts a bleed on you for 8 seconds. And while you have that bleed on you, you also take, I think, 50% more physical damage. So it's a pretty rough moment. Realistically, as long as you're in Consecration, either Ardent Defender or Eye of Tyr should be enough to see you through it. Just make sure that, let your health drop a little bit, it's fine, and then top yourself up with a nice Word of Glory when you're slightly lower on HP. There isn't really that much more to this boss, just keep sending your wings, don't bother holding them for the next call, just keep sending them always, and get it dead as quickly as possible. Do as much damage as you possibly can. So one thing that, for my retrospective, if you like,
shelter.
I'm not happy about. I wasn't using my trinket often enough. I probably would have got an extra use out of it on this boss if I was using it on cooldown rather than saving it. So again, Survival Hunter just walks away, feign deaths, and grapples back in. So here I'm going to reposition the boss to make sure it's in the center of that pillar, so that it's easy to line of sight.
Defensive.
Again, this one was an Ardent Defender. It's still, what, 15-20%, so I'm going to send my wings again just for more damage.
Find shelter.
And we're going to line of sight. The rogue is being greedy for damage here, so he's using his Cloak of Shadows to avoid the fear so he can keep his DPS uptime. Alright. This one's a little bit tight, but we should be able to hide. But again, I'm going to reposition it just to be correct.
Defensive.
And that is how you kill Razan. Nice and simple. So, I wouldn't recommend necessarily the route I'm doing right now for every week, but I felt very comfortable with it for Tyrannical Sanguine specifically. So, from here, we're going to do a double sword pull, basically just to make up count, and means that we don't have to backtrack on ourselves later on. So the only thing that matters in this pull is the healer needs to be ready for it, because when the swords jump on DPS players, they'll lose a lot of health. You can see my health drops a bit here as well. And make sure you kick the Screamer. None of the little swords drop Sanguine, so you don't have to worry about that, but the big guy does. In a caster group, I would usually not walk it towards the next pack like this, but every single one of the people in our group do not care if I move. There's no ground-based damage effects. So it's just kind of saving a little bit of time. Be aware of who's in your group and adapt to it as such. So this pack of this double pull is kind of painful. If this was a fortified week, generally want to hero this. The key is the target that I currently have selected. You see it's got 2 spells it can cast. So I've got the weak aura to show its basically cast times next to its party frame. You want to make sure you get that guy. Try and kick the wildfires if you can, because they put a dot on people that the healer has to dispel. That is a very high priority. But the biggest thing is, I believe it's called Bonsamdi's Mantle. It's that yellow shield, effectively, that gets put on the ground. While they're stood within that, you cannot kick them, you cannot stun them. They're entirely immune to all forms of CC, interrupt, everything. In terms of dealing with the Sanguine, it's always a bit rough, just do the best you can. Casters, you can be moving them out by kicking them. Normal melee mobs will probably just follow you if you walk away. Try and start moving before the mob that's about to die dies, so that there's a sort of a gap between you. If you want to set it up really nicely, what you can do is, if there's one particular mob that's going to die, you can use a Hammer of Justice on it, stun it in place, start moving the pack away, and then hopefully your DPS will kill it so that you don't have a problem. I don't normally like to chain pulls in Sanguine, but it's really inefficient to kill the 2 shield guards on their own.
Defensive.
So I'm just going to chain them into this. We'll have to be careful with the Sanguine because 2 mobs are already pretty low HP. But I think in the end this ended up being pretty clean, so we're all good. The danger here is the Honor Guard. So basically once you kill the totem, so prior to killing the totem he's immortal and immune. You cannot kill him. Once you kill the totem, you can kill him, but he also starts spewing out this green stuff on the floor all the time. Basically don't stand in it. Treat it like a Sanguine puddle. It doesn't heal them, but it will hurt you significantly. 1 or 2 ticks if you're not a tank, you're going to fall over. Alright, that's very clean. So here we want to make sure we don't ninja the pack on the right, so I always just make this little jump here to be as far away as possible. Here you want to basically focus down the totem, but you want to be making sure you're kicking the caster. The important ones to kick, realistically, are everything. There is no more important and less important spell here. If the Hex goes off, then that can be a bit of a mess, and if the Venom Blasts go off, then if people are low, it can one-shot someone. Be very liberal with your defensives on these pulls, just keep sending them. You don't want to get into a situation where you're playing catch-up. again, so it's Sanguine, so I'll just keep trying to move it out of the Sanguine. Unfortunately, you see, I had my Empowered Consecration down just before that Sanguine came out, so I lost the Empowered Consecration there. I could say that it's bad foresight on my part. I could have held the Consecration knowing that there was going to be Sanguine coming, but you don't want to be in a pull where you're taking a lot of damage without Consecration, because it's a significant, like, what, 22% DR depending on how much mastery you have. So looking at timers here, we've still got a couple of minutes of Bloodlust, so we're going to go down the stairs, pick up the Invisible Assassin packs, and drag them down to the pack at the bottom. This is a relatively safe pull as long as you kick as much as possible the two casters. We have a pretty good group for this, with the exception, so Disc Priests do not have a kick. You always want to be aware of that if you have a Disc Priest. But there is a lot of AoE, CC, knockbacks, all kinds of other things in this group other than that. Plus, obviously, the Protection Paladin will kick significantly more than the average player will be able to. So it's fine. One thing I would never recommend is running in combination a Disc Priest and a Balanced Druid. Because a Disc Priest has no kick, and the Balanced Druid has an AoE kick on a 1 minute cooldown. If you have a Prop Paladin, it's just about okay, but if you don't have Prop Paladin, you have some other kind of tank.
Defensive.
Nah, you don't want to do those two in a combination. Interestingly enough, one of the best healers for kicking is the Resto Shaman, because it has a very short cooldown. I think it's either 15 or 18 seconds, pretty much a melee kick, despite being a ranged player. All the other healers that have kicks, with the exception of obviously Mistweaver and Holy Paladin, will have ranged cooldown kicks. Resto Druid, for example, generally doesn't get a kick because it has to talent into it and you have to go into cat form to use it, and the fun one with that is Skull Bash is actually on the GCD, so it's really hard to use, so Resto Druids generally you can rely on not having the ability to kick. Again, see there, those two are low, so we're just repositioning them to get them out. We let the casts kind of go through because we know they're going to die before the casts go off, and that keeps them in one place, so we can move the other one out without getting Sanguine healing. So Bloodlust is up in a few seconds here. It's fine, like we could have got here a little bit earlier, but it's fine. I think it was still a good choice to take that pack down below. So the trick here, if you look at the little flowchart meter, what do we call it, on the right side of the screen there next to the enemy boss health frames, you can see the Toxic Leap he's doing, and you can also see at the very top the Noxious Stench. So that is the thing you have to kick. Every 1 second that it's not kicked, he puts another stack of poison on everyone. So just make sure you're aware when it's coming up. If you don't have the weak auras, it's fine. It's on approximately a 20-second recast timer-ish. I think it's 18 to 20 seconds. And he does 3 jumps between it. So he'll jump at the very beginning, he'll jump towards generally where the tank is. Then he'll need to be kicked, and then he'll do 3 more jumps, and when he lands after the 3rd jump, that's when you have to kick him.
Watch your step 2.
Best way to handle this boss, you want to hero it, because there's a lot of damage that comes through. Basically walk him around in a triangle. The green stuff on the floor will eventually fade, but it takes a while, so you need to give yourself as much time as possible. So we just make a circuit, constantly backpedaling around the room, and by the time we get back to where we started, all the green stuff will have vanished. One thing that can make this quite difficult is if your DPS or healer, if they're doing such, will stand behind you, thus baiting the green stuff, as you can see behind me here, on the floor behind you, which means you have to kind of make an awkward path to get around it. You do not want to move through it. That is a maximum priority, do not move through it. So again, kick's coming up here. Literally the entire group kicked that, so it's fine. There's only one kick to do here, so honestly it's better that everyone kicks it than no one kicks it. As a paladin, you obviously have the ability to dispel poisons and diseases. I will generally dispel either myself if I'm out of wings, generally speaking, or I'll dispel the healer if I'm in wings, just to give a little bit less work for the healer to do. But by no means take that as a gospel. It doesn't matter realistically who you dispel, but it is very beneficial to your healer if you can dispel someone. If all else fails, just dispel yourself each time. Like, sometimes I'll dispel whoever I feel is a bit squishy at that moment. I'm kind of trusting the healer in this. I'm not doing any off healing, so he's doing a majority of the work here. Because this is rot damage, which is what prop paladins really are terrible at off healing for. We're good at, oh, this person's about to die, we'll quickly top them up. But consistent group-wide damage is not something we can deal with, so don't even try. You'll just make the fight go on longer because you're doing less damage, and you'll make yourself run out of mana. And there we go, nice and clean.
Master, gonna build me again.
Boltal, in pieces again.
Make sure you communicate with your group throughout the key. You don't have to do it with every single pull, but when, you know, something is very clean, a bit of praise goes a long way, and letting them know in advance what you're doing is never a bad thing, just so they can be expecting it, especially if a pull like this requires healer to spend cooldowns. I think he actually... yeah, he just goes into a rupture window, that's fair. But basically, if he didn't know I was going to do both of them and he thought only one, then there was a danger that some people might fall over if he wasn't prepared for it. So, in a non-Sanguine week, what I would do is once all the little guys are dead, I just pull both Screamers into the next pull. But because of Sanguine, it's not worth it. Just finish it up, get it clean, and go on to the next one. So on this, the brown Triceratops will charge at you, so try and make sure you're pointing kind of away from the group. I usually point into one of these wall structures just so it, you know, doesn't go and pull something random by travelling all the way down a path. The blue one will do this stomp, which is by far the most lethal, so focus your damage on the blue one and just be aware of positioning for the brown one. I kind of muck up my positioning a bit here because I'm trying to make the charges short range, and because of that I'm moving away from the shooting caster lady. You want to try and group the three of them up just so people can AoE damage. You don't really ever want to split them when you have an immobile. This is what I mean here. So I realize it and I bring it back over. Just be very careful of that frontal. I think in this case the shooting lady is the first one to die, which is actually pretty good because she won't move, so you know, getting her out of Sanguine is practically impossible. So as soon as she's dead, I'm just going to walk over here. Unfortunately, he's luckily he wasn't stamping in the Sanguine, but he did then have to run through it. I think it was only one tick of healing, so it's not too bad. But the worst place you can face the charge is where you haven't yet been, because it definitely can pull things. If it runs into a pack of swords, which is the next pull to do, it will social pull those swords. So you need to make sure you grab the sword at the top there, and then all of these. I got a little bit kind of turned around here, weirdly, because I was not facing the mob when I tried to avenge a shield. I couldn't throw it properly, and then I lost some aggro for a second. So always be aware of your positioning. It didn't matter in this case, but always be aware of your positioning. All of your abilities are front-facing. If you're not looking at your target, you cannot use them. That includes even things like Shield of the Righteous. You have to have the target in front of you to use it. So just be aware of that. There is only one mob left. He's pretty healthy still, so I'm just going to pull him into this. We'll stand him up there, kick the wildfires, and realistically he should be dead before your Hammer of Justice even falls off. These casters are a little bit weird. So they do these wildfire casts, but then it's almost like they only have one charge of it, and once you kick it, they almost don't try doing it again. Either that or it's on a really long timer, and just never is a thing that happens. So once you're about to die, I'm moving out. Perfectly timed, that's the really long timer wildfire right there. And yeah, we're good. So during that last pull, I don't know if you saw it or not, I did say to the group that the next pull is going to be quite big, basically wanting them for the DPS to save their cooldowns. I was a bit nervous about the newest pull on Sanguine because there's a lot of mobs, but it actually was quite clean. So you want to judge that one, Avenger Shield the Pact, get some aggro, and then judge the other one. Obviously just get your wings out, send all your cooldowns, make sure you kick the wildfires, and when the priest ladies do their transfuse casts, where basically you're meant to go and stand in red to hurt them rather than heal them, you want to stop it from happening, basically. Yes, it can be a DPS gain for them to die, but you also take significant damage, or whoever they target takes this significant damage as a result, and it's not what you want to happen. So yeah, there's a really nice Typhoon from the Feral Druid there, getting all of them out of the Sanguine. And now it's just kind of tidying it up. There is a pack behind me, or like to my right now, which you'd be careful not to ninja, but it's quite far away, so you've got a lot of kind of freedom for space to move around. So this boss ended up being a little bit messy. I didn't, my fault here I guess, I didn't communicate with the group what we're doing. So I always start up at the top here. I want people to be able to AoE and cleave this ad.
My claws will find your
It's being CC'd, it's being prevented from moving, which is good. We'll kill it. So the cast of Transfuse is 5 seconds away now. What people should be doing is starting to get blood, but instead they wait for, so I'm already off, they start waiting for the cast, and as a result, she's getting healed by 2 people. And although it's only a tick or 2, it adds a significant amount of time to the boss fight, because most of the damage to this boss should be done by her own mechanic. So again, keep them together, cleave them up.
Defensive.
You don't necessarily have to focus this, but what it will try and do, this ad, is it will try and consume one of the blood piles, and if that happens, basically one person has to use basically an immunity, or they're dead.
Take damage.
You can just walk into the blood pile before the ad gets there, and obviously prevent it then from getting it. You don't want to do it too early, because the blood buff or debuff on you lasts for, I think it's 16 seconds, and she channels the transfusion for 8 seconds. So if you take it more than 8 seconds before, then it won't last the full duration, but it's pretty forgiving, honestly. So for the next ad, I'm going to call in a second for the hunter to trap it. This was a bit spicy here, everyone's taking a lot of damage. I think the healer just didn't have things going, their ramp wasn't available. So yeah, just telling him it's trapped, nice and easy. So this will be the death of the boss here, effectively. As long as everyone gets blood, I think each full, 5 people with no healing ticks of blood should do about 15% of the boss's damage, health. Unfortunately, I think it gets a single tick of the golden in there, but we're still fine. So that is 100% count, and 3 out of 4 bosses. By the time we get there, we'll have about 8 minutes or so to do Yasma herself. By far, Yasma is the worst part of this dungeon. It is the boss where everyone... I don't know, everyone has to play perfectly, or it's a brick. Unfortunately, it's also after you've done the whole dungeon, so it's a time investment and then wasted in many cases.
But I will still be
So I sort of took a weird approach to this. So the rogue was talking about putting the soul rend in the corners, so where you'd summon all the ads, which is kind of okay, but you need to be a bit more flexible than that. But I kind of assumed, because he's talking about that, he knows what he's doing, and I didn't really say any more. You'll notice it gets a bit weird here, so I'm going to pull, we're going to do this. I'm trying to ping in the corner, and my stupid ping is hitting the boss instead, and no matter what I do, I can't ping the corner. So I need to work out how to fix that. So anyway, they run in the corner, the one person runs in the middle, it kind of gets messy. One person dies. I'm just walking this away so that it doesn't get any ticks from the ads. The druid has been rezzed, and now
Defensive.
It's just a case of going around. So I'm a little bit thrown off here because we're going the wrong way round. I'm used to going clockwise, I'm going anti-clockwise, so you have to be adaptable like that. Once you begin in a direction, you can't really change direction because you want the spiders to be following you around.
Defensive.
So, very quick explanation. When she does this cast, everyone's going to take big damage and the ads spawn. If an ad reaches
Watch
the
your
boss,
step.
then it's pretty much in this key level game over because the boss will start to pulse damage. So you have to kill them or move the boss away or CC the ads so that they do not reach the boss. When she casts that ability to summon the ads, immediately afterwards she will move for about 3 seconds and then she'll go into a different cast. She'll go into Racking Pain or she'll do a Tank Buster, one of the two. Because of that, it's okay to put the ads kind of close to the boss as long as you as the tank are far away so that she'll move to you. I'm waiting for the ability to go off so that it doesn't target the druid, and then I res the druid. If you res the druid before that goes off, you'll probably have a ad right under the boss because he'll res on your location, and also he'll probably die because he won't come back up with full health. So we just keep walking it around, all is good.
Defensive.
And I am calling all the positioning for these now, so this one I think will be the corner behind where I'm standing right now. Yeah, 8 seconds away it should be, yeah, that one. As you can probably guess, I'm doing this voiceover after
Watch your step.
After playing the actual key.
I will tear your soul apart.
So there we go, we're all good, moving the boss away so we're nice and safe. The Divine Toll can be really nice actually for killing those ads up because they're all clustered together. Just remember it does have a 30-yard range, so if you're too far away, you'll press it and you'll just get one shield that goes to the boss and nothing else. Cycle your defensives here, like nothing, as long as you're in Consecration and you have Shield the Righteous up, none of her abilities will kill you.
Watch your step.
But cycle them anyway, just so that there's less healing for the healer to have to do. If you notice, the healer at the minute is on 33% mana and the boss is on 40-something% health. They will run out of mana before the boss is over. It starts to get very scary towards the end. I'm just going to start, like, noticing that, I'm just going to start healing people to kind of save their mana a little bit. Now this boss is, by extreme example, a marathon and not a sprint. It's just a case of doing the mechanics repeatedly for a very long time and not making mistakes.
Defensive.
Alright, so we're 10 seconds away from the next... I think, yeah, I was putting it ahead of the boss, which is fine to do. And then what I'll do is I'll diagonally drag the boss across to avoid that corner.
Defensive.
But in this case, I can... yeah, we're all good. Like, they're basically dead beforehand anyway.
Watch your step.
So you'll see that she will summon some new spiders from time to time. There is actually a limit to this. Providing you don't kill them, i.e. walk into them and they explode, there are a maximum number of spiders that can be in existence. So if you don't kill any of them, so sometimes there's a strategy, if you have a Paladin or a Hunter, they'll press Bubble or Turtle and they'll run through and clean the whole room. If you do that, it can be useful if you're in a really tricky spot. But downside, you're going to get lots of spiders spawning then on top of the group. If you never clear them, at some point, they just won't spawn anymore. They'll always be in that big pile chasing you, and it's much more controllable. So I'm generally trying to stick a word of glory at this point on whoever has Racking Pain when it goes on, because the healer is on 2% mana.
Defensive.
Cycling between sort of 2% and 0. But yeah, we're pretty chill now. It's just I want them still to bait the thing and do it correctly, because if ads go into the boss, even on like 2%, it'll probably just kill everyone instantly. I can bubble it and I can probably finish it off, but it's always better just to play the mechanics properly. But there we go. And that is a 26 Tyrannical Volcanic Sanguine Atal'Dazar. Pretty rough key, but quite manageable when you know how the mechanics work and when all the people in your group are working together. And everyone's, yeah. As soon as people lose the sort of confidence to do it as soon as people start getting annoyed at each other, start flaming each other, etc. That's when your key is dead. Even if mistakes happen, apart from maybe Rise, you can always recover that, so bear it in mind. Timers are free, just focus and support your team. But yeah, so thank you for watching, I hope you got something out of this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.